Today is Wednesday, the 4th of February 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Yesterday, I talked about capital structure when the capital structure meets strategy, because even the best strategies fails if the balance sheet runs out of runway. And today is footprint, but we're not talking about the carbon footprint. We are talking about the strategic geographical layout of production facilities, including factories, warehouses, and supply chain networks designed to optimize cost, efficiency, and the market proximity. Specifically today is a question: are you optimizing your footprint for cost or for strategic resilience? There's a lot of things to discuss here, so let's kick off. A lot of boards still treat footprint as a procurement story. So they move work to the cheapest site, reduce overhead, close a plant, and repeat the process again and again. So sometimes it's used as the right move to do, which is a very good thinking. But when you have, for example, international or even national and manufacturing, could be advanced or very standard, the footprint also is a risk system, and not many people see it that way. It sets your exposure to labor availability, logistics shocks, qualification constraints, and also customer confidence. Because if you have a factory that actually was supplying your customers around a certain geography, and then you move it to other place, your customers start to question, say, perhaps, how are we going to get the things that we have next day when you are, 300 miles away? So let's take a look at three things to consider when going through a footprint like this. Number one, the UK government resilience policy increasingly frames supply chains and critical imports as strategic dependencies, which makes single points of failure a board-level risk, not a purchasing detail. And here's a keyword: single points of failure. Number two is the UK resilience framework pushes organizations to plan for disruption and recovery, which translates into board oversight of dependencies and response plans, not only the cost reduction. See, you start to see how the things start to get very complex very quickly. And I give you an example with a live London Stock Exchange listed company I'm watching. They report that it transferred the assembly of a high-end product from an operational site in France to a Bulgarian subsidiary, and they completed a sales-and-leaseback Bulgarian building. So those are not just cost actions. They change the continuity, the labor pools, and the long-term fixed commitments, because they sold an asset and they lease it back. So the commitments are very, very different now. So in other words, let's imagine this. The footprint decision is like moving the load-bearing walls in a building, right? So when you go to the architect and the construction site and you see the papers and say, oh yeah, it makes sense, this is going to have a good look, it's going to give us more space, more transit flow is better, etc. Until the first sledgehammer hits that wall and the whole building starts to shake. Why? Because it's holding is a load-bearing wall. It's not just a dry wall that actually you knock down and that's it. It holds part of the load of the whole building. So it's a shock to the whole system as the organization. So if your footprint is optimized only for cost, you often remove redundancy, which is a right move. You simplify suppliers, you run linear inventories, you concentrate risk. That can lift margin in a good weather, which is actually very good. But in a bad weather, I mean like different climate, economical changes, in different technological changes, different or social changes, it can disrupt deliveries and cause cash shocks. And we spoke about that yesterday when your recapitalization meets your strategy in the bad time. So how you build resilience without drifting into waste. So three things I would do or suggest as a board advisor in this particular case of footprint. Number one, map single points of failure as a board artifact. And with artifact, I mean tangible evidence of outcomes or deliverables created during a project, like inputs, routes, certifications, and processes that will stop delivery for 90 days is disrupted. And use the government framing to keep it rigorous. And government, I don't mean the government as a regulator, I mean as a governance of the board. Number two, treat footprint as a capability placement, not as a geography. The UK advanced manufacturing policy is pushing capability, skills, and technology. So the boards should ask where capability must reside to remain qualified and where optionality must exist to remain resilient, right? So we spoke about capability and capacity early this week too. So you can check that video on Monday. So use sector reality to not to generate benchmarks, but is a sector reality, not generic benchmarks. So, but international supply chain pressures means cheapest can be the most expensive outcome when it fails. So the build workflows, standard operation procedures, and visibility where the sector is strained. And remember, generic benchmark probably is a good starting point, but you have to go into sector-specific realities of what you are doing just to make sure that you are creating something that is not going to fire you back. So instead of which side is cheaper, ask these other three questions. Number one, which side keeps us qualified, on time, and credible with our customers, right? Because your customer have a saying there. Perhaps they are not going to explicitly say something, but when they start to doubt of your capacity to deliver, they are going to say things or move to another supplier, which is bad. Number two, which side gives us a second path if we lose labor or logistics? And number three, which side holds the know-how we cannot afford to lose? Very important. So when a company moves a work package, such as a very complex assembly line, it's not just a transfer. It is a process control and industrialization risk. It is a training curve and scrap risk. It is a supply and requalification chain. It is a customer confidence event, as I mentioned already. And when it adds sales and leasebacks in this mix that we mentioned earlier, is trading ownership for liquidity, right? Because they sold an asset and then lease it back. So it's liquidity that they are looking for too. So that can be rational, is a very good thinking, but it also creates fixed commitments that reduce flexibility later. So boards should see it as a both a financing and a footprint decision, right? A simple dashboard helps here. 4 lines is enough, and you don't need to overcomplicate these. Now, line number 1 is a time to recover for the top 5 disruptions, right? So you already have your dashboard risks there. Number 2, percentage of revenue exposed to single site processes. So how much that is impacting in your overall revenue. Number 3, supplier redundancy on critical components. So can we continue our production schedules without losing the raw material or critical components arriving to the site that we can produce? And number 4, where the tribal knowledge sits and whether it's documented. The tribal knowledge is your teams, your people, your capacity to continue the operating, where the knowledge is in people's head or is documented so it can be transferable, trained, and back into production in a very fast turnaround. So why does this simple dashboard approach matters? 3 things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, you use the assets lens to score your footprint as an asset, not as a cost base. So you invest in sites that protect delivery and margin during shocks. And remember that we talk about capital and strategy. Number 2 is a differentiator. You translate resilience policies into board decisions, so dependencies, recovery time, and where capability must leave to stay qualified and competitive. And in terms of a risk reducer, you build a footprint stress test you can put into your board pack, so you stop discovering risk after they bite you. One action if you may, you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. Pick one critical product line and draw its end-to-end footprint. The strategic geographical layout of production facilities, including factories, warehouses, and supply chain networks, whatever is designed to optimize costs, efficiencies, and market proximity, and then circle any step that has no viable second option within 90 days. And then you have a very good map of risks in terms of the potential winters that come around, and you want to know what is going to happen. So let's pause here today and reconvene tomorrow, because remember, yesterday I mentioned capital structure meets strategy. Today we covered footprint resilience, and tomorrow we move into the invisible controls that make the green transition credible, because we are talking manufacturing, and the green transitions are on the eye of every critic around the world about contamination, waste, etc., etc. Now, if you are UK a board director or operational leader into the C-suite or management, and you want to look at a footprint resilience from a different point of view, set up a 30-minute call so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the outside in your company can help you and your team without stepping on your toes, without the traditional consulting overhead, and without the public theater too. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.